What better place to talk about stalk rot in corn than a soybean field, right?
Well, absolutely. We've got last year's stalk still out in the field and still decomposing. And if you look in a soybean field after a corn rotation, you can look and see a lot of the different diseases forming out in those stalks. This is one of the reasons that we like to have crop rotation, so we don't have these diseases right there present in a cornfield where they're just going to jump right back into a corn plant. We've got a broadleaf crop out here, and a lot of times the diseases that impact a broadleaf crop may be a little bit different than the diseases that impact a grass crop like corn.
Yep, but the problem is, since most farmers have gone to reduced tillage over the years, there are still some corn stalks that are left out here from last year, and there'll probably be a few left going into the next year when corn is raised back here again. So when you're looking at something like this, you're much more likely to have diseases show up in corn when you've still got corn residue out there.
Well, it's really important to look at stalk rot from a standpoint of when does it really get started in my plants. Now, a lot of farmers will say, well, I didn't see anything tipping over in my field till right at the end of the season. Or, you know, right now in August, I'm seeing some spongy stalks out there, and I know I've got a little bit of stalk rot getting started. No, it started a long time ago. It started with an infection in the root system very early in the season, and it's just now fully manifesting itself throughout your stalk. So hopefully, you know, if you're seeing some spongy stalks, you can make it to harvest without things lodging and tipping over in your field. But you have to start with your management very early in the season. So if you're noticing things now, make your plans for next year.
All right, so let's talk about this year. If you're right now identifying some of these stalk rot issues, that's the key. We want you out scouting your fields. If you do identify these stalk rot issues, let's say it's now or September, whenever, you identify them, now what do you do?
Okay, so you find a hybrid or a field that you've got a stalk rot issue. You've just got to watch that throughout the rest of the season, keep an eye on it, and then schedule that field to be harvested first. I realize, you know what, you've got a problem out in that field, and that corn may be a little wetter than you would like, but you may have to get out there a week or two early rather than letting that plant fully cannibalize, fully dry out and get all the way to harvest, because by that time it may be falling all over the place, and you might end up driving 1 mile an hour with your combine going one way through the field.
All right, then the next step is, how do you prevent this from happening next year?
Well, okay, let's talk about crop rotation first of all. We kind of hit on that just a little bit. If you've got some big-time stalk rot issues, rotate away from corn for a while. You have to get away for at least a year. Plant a broadleaf crop, maybe it's soybeans, maybe it's something else depending on where you're at, and just try and get out of that disease cycle. Now, if you're in a system where you can do some tillage, that can certainly help. We talked about how in reduced tillage, like we're doing on our farm, if you've got a problem, it can be a little tougher to fight. If you can do some tillage, get everything cleaned up, get rid of some of that residue, get it broken down out in your field, that could be a good thing for you too. The next thing you will consider is using a seed treatment. Now, most corn that you're going to get is going to come with a seed treatment on it. But do pay attention to that. If there's another level of seed treatment that you can buy, some companies have got another step up if you want to pay just a little bit more. That may not be a bad thing for you. The other thing you can do is put some fungicide right in the furrow. Maybe it's with your starter fertilizer or maybe it's separate, but just put something in the furrow like a headline or another product, and you could have something else in there, another mode of action to try and fight some more disease.
Here's the other thing I always like to hit on, fertility. If you don't have a good balanced fertility program, you're going to have issues with stalk rot and a whole bunch of other things out there. So make sure you have a lot of fertility, and potassium is probably the leading cause of stalk issues, lack of potassium. So make sure you have that taken care of.
If your plants aren't being fed, if you're not getting the right fertility program out there or getting the right balance of nutrients out there for your plants, chances are if there is a disease present in your field, which there's always a disease present out there, you're going to be that host for that disease plant that you just can't fight it off. So make sure you're getting that fertility program right and doing everything you can to minimize other stresses in your field.
Like weeds and insects, make sure those are under control too.
And also, you know, things like soil pH, that's a big thing too. But just check through your field, talk with your agronomist, see, hey, here's my soil test, here's my plant tissue analysis, here's what's going on in my field. Let's figure out why I'm having disease problems when right across the road I'm not.
Well, we mentioned weeds there, and if weeds are a problem in your field, you may have more issues. Our Weed of the Week could be the culprit. We'll talk about how to control it on your farm coming up later in the show.